It's good to see you back again with us on another episode of M&A Ambassadors Becoming the Ultimate Sales Professional. Now, in the last couple of videos, we've been talking about some closing approaches and understanding what actually happens in the client's mind and what is he really expecting from us. Today, I'd like to touch on another psychological aspect of closing and how, if we as salespeople expect that there is a strong contribution from the client towards closing the deal and not just work from our side all through the process, then it's really important to understand how the brain engages in the decision-making function. Now, if I had to ask you a question, how many brains do we have? You're probably wondering, what do you mean by that? Well, the reality is we don't have one physical brain. We have three brains that we use. Now, it might look like one because they are layered one on top of the other like an onion. Now, all these three brains are engaged in the decision-making process. So if you really want to make sure that the client is fully invested with you and makes a confident decision, I need to be engaging with all the three brains. But all three brains do not react or accept the same information. Different types of information will catalyze a different reaction from each of the three brains. But to get a decision, we need all the three brains to work together. So let me quickly draw a diagram here, and please don't judge me on my art. Let's look at the concept of the three brains. So now, physically in our head, we have got three brains. Now, I'm going to do a more detailed video on this later on, but for now, just to explain, I think this is enough. Now, right at the bottom, we've got what is called the reptile brain. The reptile brain is the brain that acts, reacts, no thinking. So this is the action brain, a very, very good brain, because the eventual decision, let's do this, go ahead, will come from this brain. Then you have the second brain that gets involved, which is the feeling brain here, or what we will call the mammal brain, the animal brain, relationships, strengthening numbers. So this is the emotional brain, the connect and the associate that the client creates. And then on top, we've got what we call the neocortex or the new brain. This is the logic or the thinking brain. So now, if we want to get an actual decision from the client, we must be able to engage all these three brains during our selling pitch. But I want you to look at something here. Even if you speak to the logical brain, whether you're talking investors or you're talking homeowners, logic by itself does not drive action. If logic had to work, nobody would smoke. If logic had to work, we wouldn't be ordering the double cheeseburgers and the pizzas because we know they're not good for us. So logic itself cannot communicate to the action brain to go for it or not go for it. Physically in the head, if you see the three brains, there is a connection between each one layer to layer. So what does this mean? The logic brain does not connect to the action brain. The only connection that you can get is from the logic brain to the feeling brain. So based on the logic, based on the arguments, the analysis, the comparison, I will feel good or I will not feel good. I will like it or not like it. The feeling brain connects with the action brain and communicates how it is reacting to the situation. And based on I like it or I don't like it, the action brain goes ahead. So if you really want to get a decision in sales, and I'm going to go into detailed videos on these, what you need to ensure is that you are actually engaging with all the three brains at different points of time during your selling process. Because let's pull this together and see what happens at the decision-making moment. So I'm going to switch from this screen to a new one just to explain how the decision happens. Okay, so think of it as a small little table, a conference table with three key decision makers sitting: the logic brain, the feeling brain, and the action brain. Now, at this point, if you have been the kind of salesperson where you were only speaking logic, rationale, numbers, etc., but you did not connect, say, for example, with the relationship and the feeling brain, Now comes the moment of decision making, and logic brain is super excited because you've been speaking to logic. So logic brain talks to the two brains and says, what do we do, guys? What's our next step? Feeling brain says, next step about what? About whatever has been shown to us. He said, but he spoke to you, not to me. So what happens is, at the table, the action brain says, hey, I'm confused. You seem to be convinced about it. You have no clue what's going on. How can we decide? So what normally happens in such a situation, the client will tell you, let me think about this. I'll come back to you. What the client is actually telling you is, you haven't fully engaged with me in all my three brains so that I can make a confident, clear decision. I want you to think about this, and I will expand on this concept in the future videos so that you can fully engage all three brains so you can close bigger deals and you can close them faster. I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of M&A Ambassadors, Becoming the USP, the Ultimate Sales Professional.